Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. There are kids playing and screaming outside, which is cool. Otherwise, you probably can't hear them, and thankfully I can't now either because I love the kids. The kids in the kindergarten love me, but my autism can't handle that kind of background noise when I record a video, especially short on time. I'm gonna finish this video and call someone like the second after. So, short and sweet one today. We're gonna talk about timing and training. Which time of the day is the optimal time to train in order to build muscle? Is there even such a time? And if there is a general time like that, is that the same time that would be optimal for you personally to train in order to build muscle? That's the way I like to frame and expand a question like that, because I don't like these kinds of questions much at all. I think it's too one-dimensional, and I think people think of and look at things too one-dimensionally. In fitness, definitely, but in general, I think, in this information society, when you can look such things up, which is optimal, what is optimal with this and that and that. I understand if you're a complete beginner new to something, you just have a lack of knowledge and limited perspective, but many times I think even people that are into something just look at every single thing like this. Because look, if something is theoretically optimal in a vacuum, it might not necessarily be what adds up to everything being most optimal for you in the end, if you see what I mean. So I'm gonna tell you that I'll answer the question. I'll give two different times that I think are optimal for different purposes, okay? Because I have a few sheet words here. You know, when we ask ourselves what is optimal about anything, but now in this case, time of the day to train, are we asking theoretically? If we just take someone and just assume that they can train at this day, this time of the day, and that they do a good work and that they keep doing it forever, you know, because that's the thing where we're talking optimal, you know. It doesn't matter if something is optimal to do in a vacuum one time if that's not what you're gonna be sticking to. But so are we asking which is the optimal time of the day to train just theoretically? In a vacuum like that? Are we asking optimal according to your preference? Because that's another thing. It could be the case that you would actually perform better at a certain time of the day, but because you have a certain preference of when you like to train, that's better because that's what you're gonna stick to. And then related to that, optimal according to your circumstance, you know. Sometimes you might know what's optimal and you might even prefer that, but your current circumstance just doesn't quite allow for this, okay? Then the last thing that I think is important is optimal according to when you have more goals than just building muscle, right? Because this is what I think. Many of us that even like a lot, it's a lot, for me, even a profession, but it would definitely be a hobby, natural bodybuilding, even if I didn't work with it. And there are many guys that it's something they care a lot about, but rarely it is the one and single thing people care about, okay? Because people want to be a person. Maybe you want to be a jacked guy. Maybe you want to be a disciplined, jacked, fit guy, you know. But you are that guy that are about other things too, right? So just for the same reason that maybe I take this example so often, right? That maybe I pick a squat over a leg press, even if the leg press could be, let's say it's more optimal to just blow up my quads. I don't know why I said that, but maybe I want big legs, but also be able to control myself moving a lot of weight through space, not sitting just solid in position and pressing my leg in order to blow my quads up, right? So, for this reason, this is the way I think you should think about it. Compare the textbook theoretical optimal to what other goals you have, but also what kind of works for you right now, okay? So, if we're just talking theoretically optimal, it's quite well established that training a bit later in the day is better than in the PM rather than the AM, pretty much, okay? But what I want to say to that is that when I started training, I would say I started improving my habits and I went up at a decent time, like early, you know, but I definitely was not used to training in the morning. I felt it very difficult to train. I felt a lot of resistance doing that. I remember at the time I would sometimes open a gym at 6, it opened. I remember one guy that came in on those days and did squats in the morning, and I just felt like, how can he even do that, you know? But what I will say is that if you start doing, you know, the body adapts. It might not be able to change something that wasn't optimal into completely optimal, but you'll decrease the gap. And that's what happened to me these last, 4 years, 5 years, I've trained early in the morning most of the time, right? And I would say now the gap is very, very, very small compared to training a bit later in the day. I do notice it on some like a deadlift. I do deadlifts on Saturday mornings usually, and I had to come in later on the day and do it, and I just felt, okay, it is different. I can squeeze out a bit more. Still though, the gap is very small, and I can still make progress. So I don't really care, because the entirety of my days work out better like this, all right? So that's why in my Consistent King course, there is a whole routine for that is, you know, it is constructed to get you jacked, like learn the fitness habits, but also becoming a solid, consistent, disciplined person that feels well and stays consistent with the entirety of the regimen, right? For this reason, in this course, I put the training in the morning, and I would recommend that to many people. In the course, there's always options to do it in a different way, but why the root foundational program, why that's the priority, is, I'll tell you this as an example. I don't even work a 9 to 5, but I still think my days work out the best when I train first thing in the morning. But it's more obvious when you tell. So I always give this example to make the point that if you work a 9 to 5, let's say you go after work to train. It's one of the most crowded times of the day in the gym, because lots of people go then, right? So it might take you longer. What you want or need might not be available. You have to wait or pick something else, right? Now all this time has passed. You come home, you've worked, you trained, and many people, they feel like, I need to get to do something here, you know, to wind down, watch some Netflix, play some video games, spend some time with my significant other or whatever, right? And they're up maybe a bit too late, and they have to use all the time they had to sleep, and then they wake up and they're tired and they have to go to work, and this is the loop. While now let's just imagine you go up earlier and hit that workout in the morning, and now you're done. You know, it's over with. It's out of the way. You will feel good just from, you know, the actual physiological response from the training. You know, some happy hormones, some stress hormones that we want to kind of activate at the start of the day, right? You feel that on the physiological level, plus you'll just feel accomplished. You know, when you go about the rest of the day, you have that in your backpack, that win already. And when it is the end of the day or the work day, you're just done. You can do whatever you want with that time. Now you have enough time to do whatever you'd like to do on your free time in order to be able to go to bed on time, sleep well, wake up early, and do the same thing again, right? So you see, that's why one of my answers would be that no, it's optimal in the morning for a lot of people, because the entirety of their days, their regimen will work out best this way. But if I am to just answer theoretically what's optimal, it's like, okay, later. So maybe right now, I go train in the morning, but maybe on a day, let's say I want to go for a personal best on the deadlift, for instance, probably I plan it so I go later on that day, because I know for absolute performance, it's going to be a bit better for me to go later sometimes. But since my days work out best when I train in the morning and I can still make progress, it's this much, my performance take a hit when I'm adapted to it. That's what I'll opt to do most of the time. So I'm saying I have some alternatives here. I would say to most people, train in the morning, you know, but you know, for someone with a flexible workplace, they let you take a little longer lunch, for instance. Maybe that would work well for you, you know. You don't have to stress. It's a bit later in the day. You're still then gonna, when the workday is finished, have that more time. You see, there are other answers than I gave you here. So these would be my go-tos. There's a reason I think in the Consistent King course you should follow training in the morning early. This is the last point I'll say. Like, the point is, I have some preferences, some go-to suggestions, but you can use the same kind of reasoning I'm doing to come up with some answer I didn't mention. Like the lunch one, okay, I guess I mentioned it, but it's an example of something you could come up with. But what I'll say about the thing like training in the morning, do you know what I think? I think it's a good thing to have done for a while, to build this character of the Consistent King that I talk about in the course. But whether you're going to follow that course or not, it's like now, I actually go a bit later at the moment. Still in the morning, sometimes forenoon, you know, depending on how you define that, because I notice it's getting darker, I need a bit more sleep, and some work opportunities has opened up that I have some clients in the morning when I haven't before. in the middle of the summer, for instance, I would go train before these clients, but noticing that I need to sleep a bit more now anyway, I'll just structure it so I'll do my clients first and then I'll train, right? But I'm happy that I have that habit to begin with, so that when things change, when I don't need to sleep as deeply and long anymore, I can just go back to being the morning trainer. Overall, I like my days best that way. Short addendum post-call and post-kindergarten opening hours. What I want you to take with you from videos like this is to start widening your thinking from what is best, what is optimal, to what makes it work for me, Start looking for that average between theoretically optimal and what would work for you realistically, right? The average between that's the sweet spot you're looking for. This is what I see a lot of people missing, both in just what they do, but when they tell me or ask me things. They tell me about a training program or a diet or fasting approach. It's like, what do you think? It's always, again, if you're asking me in theory, it's like, yeah, that is something that could generate results. What do you think though? Will you be able to do that? When were you gonna train? These meals, this fasting or these calories, macros you mentioned, do you have a plan for when in the day you're gonna eat? What meals are gonna make up? All these things are what matters, not just is the plan in theory good, it's like, will it work for you? That's how I've done my coaching all the time. That my first interview with a client is always about getting an idea of not just their physical fitness, but the logistics of their life and what seems to be preferences they have, and create something that is not optimal for a person like that in theory, but that I think they can actually adhere to. And then of course you adapt when you work together, you adjust as you go, you see. And that's the idea with a course like Consistent King, that okay, now I'm giving you as much of a structure as possible, with some room for individualization, like from the base program, and just some options if you can't fit into that structure. But structure, like actually putting it all together. Great if you figure out what's optimal about different things. But now, how do I sow the most optimal way forward to the kinds of results that I'd like to see with all of this? That's what's interesting, okay? Building that structure that works for you. So I'll finish, like and comment. When do you like to train? Have you tried it? What's the difference for you? I'm always interested to hear your thoughts. You can pick up the Consistent King course. It focuses on building, the habits of a jacked man with a plan. That's a tagline. Becoming the fitness structured person, but also just a structured, disciplined person, a consistent king. It's linked in the description. You pick up my training book, everything training, philosophy, mindset related that you need in order to become a self-reliant, jacked and stacked individual. Please subscribe for more content about fitness, fast losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys, not what is optimal. What is optimal for you, considering everything else. Okay, peace.